We're here at the Commodity Classic for 2020. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm Brad Walkup with New Leaf Symbiotics, Strategic Account Manager for the Terrison brand. And again, we're excited to be here down in San Antonio. Going to talk a little bit about your experience with the biologic space, give you some specific questions to answer, and just learn a little bit more about the space, your opinion, and maybe some specific history you have with it, and kind of walk through maybe some of the benefits of our company and our product. So I'm Brad Walkup from Des Moines, Iowa. Been in ag for forever, and currently with New Leaf Terrison brand. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself, would you?
You bet. Matt Helms. I'm with New Leaf Symbiotics. I lead our commercial efforts, and I'm from originally Belleville, Illinois, just on the Illinois side of St. Louis. Family farm, and been here for years. We've been building the commercial business and entering for the first time with our Terrison brand.
It's been fun.
Yeah,
thank you.
Been.
Parker?
Yeah, Parker Merritt, agronomist at MBS Family Farms in Plainfield, Iowa. Our biological experience is very limited to this point so far. We're dipping our toe in, learning the difference between bacteria and fungi and how that all interacts with each other. So it's a learning process. There's a lot involved in it.
For everyone.
It's for everyone, yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, Sean Blomgren, DeKalb Asgrow dealer from Central Iowa. Had a real interest in the seed treatment space. It's been a big part of differentiating our business. I've spent the last probably 3 to 5 years specifically kind of looking for a product set to kind of build into what we offer our customers, for really to differentiate our business, but ultimately to offer a really high value that's a little bit different than what the other people in our area are.
Good. So Matt, you came from kind of a big R&D research engine, delivery engine, Monsanto. Tell me a little bit about what intrigued you about this space and New Leaf in particular.
You bet. So I spent 18 years at Monsanto. We had a great run there. But one of the things that I think we can all see happening in agriculture is it's very difficult for these large R&D engines to have a very attractive ROI. A lot of the investment is going into looking for the next rootworm trait or the next LEP or the next fungicide that's replacing the value that we've already gained from investments over the last 20 to 30 years. And I could see this space as being really at the infancy of breakout of its strategic advantages. We can bring products quickly and at about 90% less of the cost compared to some of those other traits or chemistries. And I think that's very exciting.
So do you see biologic products replacing current use of chemistry ultimately, or do you see it being hand in hand, or where do you see this in 5 or 10 years, Matt?
Yeah, I think initially in the first, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be complementing and supporting. As an example, one of the really interesting products in our pipeline is mitigating corn rootworm. I think that can help provide the traits additional durability. I think it can also help with conventional or non-corn rootworm traded corn. So I don't know if it's a replacement for the trait. I think it's a complement. I think as we continue to learn more in this space, there may be more of those opportunities 20 and 30 years out.
Sure.
So I think it's complementing at this point in time.
So Parker, you're an agronomist, really dealing with real-world scenarios, real-world decisions on, what you're going to plant, where you're going to plant. What is it about this space that makes you interested?
That's a very probably a broad answer to it. I think the biggest interest is where we've hit the cap on some efficiencies in fertility, in some of even the hybrids and the bean varieties continue to obviously add yield just in the breeding process. But I think definitely some complementary with the biological space in terms of increasing that yield instead of just a few bushels a year to double that even. It's very just broad as to what that looks like right now, or what specific your problem you're trying to solve in a specific field, or how prescriptive that is or is not, is probably to be determined down the line here. But we got to start somewhere anyway.
Right. So Sean, you had product out last year with several of your customers. Give us an idea of, number one, maybe why you're excited about this space going forward, and a little bit of your experience with the Terrison product in 2019.
Yeah, so excitement about the product is really twofold. So Mary and Parker's comment ultimately today, ROI is what drives the success or failure ultimately of the guys that I work with. And so first and foremost, yield, protecting yield, enhancing yield, those sorts of things is obviously what we as input providers have to be really aware of. So ultimately we're looking for a return on investment. I mean, that's simple. We all know that, right? The second part of that equation, I think what's really attractive to my business is kind of this airy space, right, of sustainability, of best practices, of soil health, of really knowing and understanding what we're doing with our crop. And so in my part of the geography, we have a real desire to do this well. And I think people are really receptive to the concept of taking something that's naturally occurring. Yes, it has to result in an ROI. It has to result in profitability on the farm, but I think it's really fun to believe in and be excited about something that is a natural derivative of the way Mother Nature would otherwise be doing this, right? And so then, so what did my customers see? I was thrilled when we got to scout this product. So first and foremost, we primarily use the soy product. Product treated really well. I would actually believe, I think it enhanced our seed treatment process. I think our slurries were better. I think our product we delivered to the customer's tender was better. But I got really excited when we started scouting it. So 2 in a row, I could see a plant health advantage. Really in every part of the plant, but where we really make our money in soybeans and fine root hairs and nodulation, there was no doubt we were seeing a significant advantage. As we took it all the way through the season. It was a lot of fun to ride in combines and see the yield results.
Right. So, Matt, you've been running the commercial side of this business for some time now. Maybe compare and contrast your experience with the biologic space with the hard chemistry space. What are some of the challenges, and what do you think some of the upsides of this are compared to growers who are currently used to just using hard chemistry?
Great question. With hard chemistry, if it's, let's say, a herbicide, farmers are looking for about 98 to 99% efficacy. With fungicides, same type of thing. Okay, it's really just about to the level that the disease pressure is there. The thing with biologicals, and probably at least in our conversations with farmers, has been looking for a biological to provide a certain level of consistency over a number of years. And I think that is one of the things that we're learning right now. Our product's been tested quite a bit over 4 to 5 years. Our win rate is 72% on soy and 78% on corn, and those are really good win rates.
Right.
But it's not 98% like in the other scenario I described. So you and I have had some of these conversations with people just adjusting to that, and part of what we're trying to do is not only look at things in 1 year, but over the course of multiple years, and bring in a product that can be highly leverageable for that farmer ROI and for dealers and distributors as well, so that over the course of 5 years, they are well worth investing in a product like Terrison. So that is a different discussion than I've had previously.
It is, and the whole space tends to be really messy. It's not well defined. We talk about biologicals in general, and there aren't particular specific biologic things that people talk about. It's talking about a real generality of things. Parker, so you've kind of, starting last year, maybe you and I kind of started this journey a little bit. I knew you were interested. What is your expectation from a biologic product? Are you more interested in what we're doing with the plant in particular? Or are you more interested in the soil health aspect, or maybe both?
I don't think you can segregate them. I think that the Terrison product is going to be solving the plant health aspect, or building the plant's defensive mechanisms, or adding to those mechanisms anyway. But I guess I see a future someday that we'll be using Terrison in addition to maybe even another company's product, just depending on what particular problem we're trying to solve there. Obviously the plant health is or Furthermore, the natural defenses of the plant are always going to be an issue. It's not necessarily a site-specific issue, but there are some other places that might have say a nutrient issue, whether that's tie-up or however those nutrient balances are, maybe a short-term rental situation for a farmer, or something where they're not willing to pour a lot of fertilizer dollars in, or I mean the different ways or uses of a biological. I don't even know if I can come up with enough examples of places that a person could even think of to use, and probably because there's some microbe somewhere that hasn't even been discovered yet that we don't know what it does.
Right, we're truly just coming to America, so to speak.
Yes.
It's really a wide open space, and there are very few of us that have really put the money into research and looked at these things in particular areas of efficacy like we have. So Sean, you and I we've been through this quite a bit. I think the number one thing is high level of interest from growers, from a dealership issue, a real lack of clarity in what to expect, and certainly a certain amount of skepticism. So from your standpoint as both a farmer and a dealer, why would you contend that now is a really good time to jump in?
Yeah, so why is it time to jump in? So a gentleman just said to me probably 30 minutes ago, the nice thing about 10 years ago is it was all snake oil. The nice thing about today is it's almost all snake oil. So the tricky part is figuring out which ones are and which ones aren't, right? So speaking to the business that you guys are running and why we're excited about a partnership with New Leaf and working with the Terrison brand, when you explore this space, right, it's a pretty wide open. It's the Wild West, and it doesn't take a lot to declare yourself a biological. And so I think when we look whether it's through my farm or through my dealership and what you guys are doing, I think the integrity of the science is what's really attractive. It seems like in this industry there's just a lot of correlation. Like we put something out, we saw it do this, so therefore there must be an effect. I've heard it said about New Leaf that they're an inch wide but a mile deep. So we don't know a lot about everything. We know a ton about one thing.
Right.
And I think for me that gives me a lot of confidence, because at the end of the day we've got an uphill battle we're fighting in the sense of kind of earning the grower's trust and earning the farm trust that when we put a product out there, we first and foremost understand how it's interacting with the plant, but can also set a reasonable expectation for what that may or may not do. In my world, all I have is my credibility. If I cost that credibility with my grower, and that doesn't mean that we're not allowed to fail. You referenced a win rate. It doesn't mean that a product has to perform 99% of the time. It means that we have to understand first and foremost what's the interaction happening within the plant, and then we have to educate growers on what that expectation should be. And one of the things I think that the ag industry has done a disservice to is we almost have this mentality that we're not dealing with a live thing, right? And so every single thing that we're utilizing is live and interacts with each other. And so the biological space is no different. In fact, it probably almost complicates it more, right? Because now we're introducing another live mechanism into this scope of effect that we have. And so I think for me it's attractive. Sustainability, traceability, food safety, this whole concept is becoming really prevalent in ag. But also, for the first time, at least since I've been in this space, there's a lot of money being spent to really know and understand how these products work. So it's the first time I've had the confidence to go to my growers and say, I understand this enough that I'm willing to walk hand in hand with you what you say.
Right. So we've heard a lot of times the word differentiation has come up in this conversation. And Sean, I know for you as a seed dealer and a trusted partner, that's really important to you to differentiate what you're doing with and for your growers. For us, it's super important to differentiate our technology from everybody else. And Parker, I assume it's important for you to differentiate the way you operate with your landlords. and add value to them.
It absolutely is. Farming is a relationship business, and I think it always will be, no matter how technology changes. Farming is a relationship business. I think it always will be, no matter what changes in terms of biological products or technology changes or hardware or whatever that change may be. There's always going to be a relationship between neighbors because we are neighbors and we're competitors, and so that's a relationship to manage as well as the landowner. I think there's going to be some importance with the transparency there all the way along, especially maybe more so with the landowner, just as business partners is really what we are between the landowner and the farmer themselves, as well as with the sustainability piece, the soil health aspect, and that we are going above and beyond in order to maintain their asset, in order to maintain something that a piece of land that's been in the family for a long time that grandpa owned or grandpa farmed.
Right.
There's just a lot of value in that for them, as well as the value of the return on investment for the farmer as well.
Sure.
I love kind of the mutuality that comes when a grower can say, hey, I understand you've made a lifelong commitment to this piece of soil. And I think a lot of times we make the mistake of viewing that as a one-year lease if you're a farmer. And I think the farmers that do a really good job, the growers that do a really good job of saying, I understand this is a lifelong investment that you've made in this piece of ground, and I don't view this as a calendar year. And so there are times I'm gonna invest a little bit more or adopt a practice because I want you to understand I respect this lifelong investment you made into this, and it should be a mutually beneficial interaction for both people, right? And I think products like this really, I think if I were out trying to grow my business as a grower, I'd want to be advertising, front of the line the types of products like these that I'm adopting, because it's such a great message of I'm in this thing for the long run. I'm adopting the kind of technologies that protect, the future of ag, not just my investment in the next 12 months.
Right. I think that one of the things that I'm most excited about with New Leaf is the technology as a platform, the ability to solve specific problems over time in a natural way without putting another $300 million into a hard chemistry. I think the information that we have in this segment is going to become very, very valuable over time. I'm going to ask Matt if you could think of, and this could differ by geography. You guys farm in different areas, but for your farm, if I could solve one problem for you in row crop ag, what would you think of that being? That would be the most valuable thing we could accomplish.
Boy, that's a good one. Here's one I think that would be interesting. It would be, could you come up with something that could be a seed treatment or in-furrow for problems like gray leaf spot in corn? And I know it's interesting, when you look at a macro level, only 20% of the acres of corn get a fungicide. It's probably well worth that trade-off, but we all know that have been involved with farms, by the time a lot of times even for early scouting and spotting something like that, the impact that it could have, if you could deliver a protection through a microbe in our space, and that's actually something that we've been looking at, that would be awesome. Think about the time management that takes off your table, the risk, the assurance, and obviously then at the end of the day yield benefit, the plant health, the standability. That's one small segment, but that's one that just pops in my head due to both the corn and the popcorn that we grow.
Yeah. Parker, what keeps you up at night, and what could we solve in the future?
I'm really excited about the ability to prescribe more on a very site-specific. That's a long ways down the road. I understand there's a lot of DNA sequencing and what does each piece of that DNA or each characteristic that a microbe has to be able to combat whatever problem it may be, if it's a specific disease, if it's a lack of nutrient availability, water use, maybe it's too much water, not enough water, whatever that characteristic is of that microbe that can solve a specific problem. But that's a long ways down the road, I realize, in terms of understanding the relationship between the plant and again, it's a living organism in nature. things happen too that aren't going to be 100% all the time.
Yeah.
But it's exciting to think that someday, whether it's a soil sample or some sort of analysis, that we can prescribe, and Brad can say, hey, New Leaf's got this product, will solve your problem 70% of the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just place it in the right spot and you'll be good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Sean, for your operation, or even for you as a trusted partner dealership, what keeps your customers up at night, and what should we be looking at to solve that would make a dramatic impact in the lives of your growers?
Yeah, so it's a fun question to answer, because today it's literally happening. I mean, so we've incorporated 401 into, it'll be close to 100% of our soybean business, and we're targeting a very specific problem for us, which is weed control. And it's not a weed control product, right? My best weed control comes from row closure. I mean, when I close my rows, my weed control issues drop radically. We're doing a couple things to try and kind of complement that, which is planting soy ahead of or at the same time of corn. So we're going out oftentimes weeks earlier than we would have even 3 to 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But then we're also trying to complement some of the other chemistry we're using. And so some of the chemistry we're using that has a very high tax on the plant, we're trying to offset some of that by utilizing products like 401. And so it's not hypothetical, it's very real. A very real problem for us is combating weed problem. And this is one of the best solutions we have to date. We're in this weird space of trying to sort out the chemistry and the platforms that we want to adopt and all those kinds of things. But we have a very real solution, which is speed that row closure up. And that's not a thesis. I mean, that happened in Central Iowa last year.
Right.
You know, scouted over and over and over again where we got there quicker. Going to what could we do in the future? I love the idea of gray leaf spot, but really I really think you run the whole gamut of what I would call reactionary diseases or reactionary pests. If we can look at the ones that we don't get to do anything about until we realize they're there, and we have something that could either mitigate or assist in that earlier in the season, I think that's huge. Even fungicide is almost always a reactionary treatment.
Yeah.
It's either built into your program ahead of time, or it's oftentimes too little, too late, or a diminished return, because by the time we realize our need for it, we're too late. So any of those things we could incorporate in ahead of time would just be a huge value to us.
Yeah. Guys, I appreciate your time. I'm super excited about the platform that we have to deliver some of these things, either in real life, as we saw last year, or in the future as we move forward. I appreciate you coming down, sitting down, and talking about what the future holds and really what we have today. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Greg. Thanks, guys.